So non-duality is what you are right here, right now, right here, right now. Boom, 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 boom. Um, non-duality is implying that life isn't separate. So in society, we speak in duality. We speak in subject, object, this and that, right and wrong, good and bad, heaven and hell, light and dark. And everything we name and talk about is kind of speaking in a way where by naming it, you're also simultaneously naming what it's not. So by calling this a sofa, we know that's not a wall or a child or a floor. So it's like our words can't act independently. They have to work in relationship to everything else. We also have this idea of myself and others, of you and me. And you know yourself because you're not John, Larry, or Michael, or Susan, Mary, or Philippa. So you know yourself because you're not those people. You are you. And everything that you describe about yourself is actually in comparison to other things. So maybe you say you're a tall person, and that's relative. If you lived in the land of the giants, you'd be very small. If you lived in the land of the fairies, you'd be very tall. You might describe yourself as a slim person or a fat person, but again, that's relative to what you're describing yourself to against. The same with intelligent or stupid, or beautiful or ugly. So what I'm trying to get at is there's no fixed thing in our language. Everything is determined by what it's not. I went for a long walk. I am a possessive person. I am a kind person. The sky is blue. My feet are big. I went down to the shops today and bought 4 new jumpers. So you know it's 4 because it's not 3 or 2. You know it's a jumper because it's not a cardigan. You know you went down to the shops because that doesn't mean home or bed or shed. So we identify words through a process of something that we call duality, in opposites. So we know it, we know words by comparison to the other. So if you described colours, the 2 opposites are white and black. And then you have everything that's in between. Good and bad, and then everything in between. Kind and mean, and everything in between. So that is fantastic news, because what that means is that you aren't a fixed person. So everything you think about yourself isn't truth. It's subjective to what you're comparing yourself to. So I grew up in a household with perfectionists. And I kind of got the impression that I wasn't a perfectionist. I'm a perfectionist only in certain areas. And I also, because they were perfectionists, I also got the impression that I did lots of things wrong. It's not their fault that happened. It's just part of psychology, because if I were to say pack the dishwasher, there would always be something that I did wrong about packing the dishwasher. So in another household, maybe they would have brought me up and been like, oh wow, that was so great that you packed the dishwasher, or whatever it was. But in my family, because they were perfectionists, they would always point out like that you'd left a little bit of food on the plate, or you hadn't put the knives in the right place, or you put too many things here, or not. And so I always got the impression that I got a lot of things wrong. And I got, by default, taught to not really trust my opinion. And that's something that I'm still reconditioning in Lisa. I always assume, and it's so organic and natural in me to assume that other people know more than me. So when I listen to people, I assume they're right, even if I have thoughts that I know something else to be the truth. Not in every area, but in a lot of areas. Like when I'm a teacher of non-duality, and this might work in the benefit for the people listening to me, I always assume that they know what I'm talking about. And then it surprises me, or that they've had that experience, and then it surprises me when I begin to work out that they don't. I think that's also an effect of these awakening experiences, is you think everyone thinks the same as you. Whereas you get other people that always think they know better than other people, and they know more than other people. That wasn't my conditioning. Which has positive sides, because it can make me really flexible person in lots of different ways, and I can really take criticism quite well. Sometimes I get annoyed by it, but I think I can be very flexible. So there's positives to it, but there also can be negatives to it. But if you take all of that, you can see that it's all relative, because so in my household I didn't do things to a good enough standard, but in a different household maybe I excelled at the standard. But we pick up these things and we take them to be who we are, and it's not even an effort that we do this. It just is something that begins to manifest, that you're not doing things right, or you should be doing things different, or that you've done things better than other people. And you begin to form a solid sense of self and believe that's who you are, rather than them just seen as conditions and things and behaviors that are arising that aren't you. They're just a behavior arising. So assuming that other people know more than you, or assuming that people know what you're talking about, is just a condition of the body-mind. It doesn't equal someone. But what we do as humans is we take it on board and believe that we're somebody looking out at these bodies, and that we're having an experience, which is so weird. But we're also hypnotized into believing it, that there's somebody that's inside these bodies having an experience. And it's so convincing, because we have these thoughts that arise with these bodies, and then you have a thought thinking about you, and images being produced about who you are. And so it really feels like that's the truth. That isn't the truth. That isn't who you are. That's a phantom. That's a ghost. So who are you then, if that's not who you are? Who you are is really pure. It isn't separate from anything that's being experienced. So it's really pure and really beautiful who you are. It's not a feeling or a thought or an idea or something that you can grasp. And yet, amazingly and miraculously, it's not separate from what's being experienced. Some people call it the watcher or consciousness. In some ways it's even deeper than that. Some people call it beingness or presence, and again in some ways it's deeper than that. But you can also see from exploring that there's something conscious, something experiencing here, and something that has this sense of aliveness, which isn't contained inside the ideas of who you think yourself to be. So it's not contained inside I'm good enough or I'm not good enough, I'm happy or sad. That all of that is being experienced by that consciousness. So there's something that's watching that, experiencing that. So all your ideas about yourself, dualistic ideas, are being experienced by something that's watching, that doesn't belong to the body-mind and doesn't belong to the person. And that watching, the consciousness, isn't separate from what's being experienced. In a way, you could say all there is everything, and that everything is not a thing, because even consciousness becomes an abstract idea of the mind that doesn't actually inherently exist. There is simply everything, and it's mysterious as to what it is. But the great thing about this concept of watching and consciousness is that it's an easier way to be able to communicate this. That there's something watching prior to any idea of you. And it's so beautiful and alive and radical, and it's so infinite. It's totally empty, this consciousness, and yet it's all things. And the same with this presence, this sense, some people call it the idea, I am. That too doesn't belong anywhere. What happens in the human mind and in the body is that the person claims consciousness and this sense of idea. I keep saying idea, the sense of I am. And it says, I am someone. I am conscious. But it's the person that you believe yourself to be, the tall person, rich person, poor person, is never conscious. It's never alive. It's being experienced.